Hey, I got something to say. How are you today? What's new? I know when I said that last time, I thought, well, no one's going to respond to like, hey, what's going on new? And then I said something different. What are your wins for the week? And guess what? I got responses. A lot of wins going on out there. So thank you so much. Today, I know I love my guest, but I really do love my guest. And we are having Amanda Blackwood on. Now, this is her first time doing Instagram Live. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't see her coming in yet, so I might have to go out and troubleshoot, and then I'll come back in. But you know, that's what happens when you do live. But I love it. So, a couple things while I'm waiting to see if she comes in or not is I just got asked, do you still take requests for guests? And the answer is, yes, I do. I am booked for a while, so I've stopped for a little bit because I'm going all the way through. Let's see. I think I'm booked to, I think this is her. There she goes. She's here. Detailed pieces. I think it's an yay, it's you. Woohoo! I was like, okay, I'll go back out, maybe come back in. Hey there, how are you, gorgeous?
I'm good. How are you doing? I love your hair. It is.
Thank you, God. You know, I don't have to do anything with it. It just is, you know. Amanda, I was talking a little bit about you before I brought you in, but before we get started, because I know we have a lot to chat about. Do you have tea or coffee, by the way? I have
neither one.
Oh, water.
Not whiskey.
I don't.
This is lemonade Mio.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, I don't know what they do in Denver. I love Denver. Okay. Let me tell them a little bit about you. Amanda Blackwood is an accomplished artist and author, public speaker, podcast host, trauma recovery mentor, and a survivor of human trafficking. Amanda has spoken on a multitude of stages, international summits, radio programs, and has published over a dozen books. Woo, woo. Amanda lives in Denver, Colorado, with her rescue cats and supportive husband who keep her safe. By the way, I have 5 cats and a dog. I don't know. I'm just telling you. We might have. How many cats do you have?
6.
I need to get another cat.
Oh my gosh. So when I met my husband, I had 4 cats and he had 2 cats and a dog. So basically when we got married, we just started our own petting zoo.
Listen, I love all my animals. I'd have more dogs, but my husband's like, let's hold off there. All right, Amanda, I know we spoke a little bit before, and you were saying, before we dive into your story, because we've never, ever had this subject matter, ever, on my show. And I've been doing shows for, not just live, recorded for over 17 years. Right, long time. So I'm glad you're here. Tell us, so we don't draw our own conclusions, what is human trafficking? Because I know you sometimes say people, you know, they have the wrong idea.
Absolutely. And then a lot of it's perpetuated by stereotypes and sensationalized stories in the media or news or movies or stuff like that. But I tell people, human trafficking is not something you need to Google or look up on Wikipedia. These are fallible resources and cannot be relied upon for the true definition. So you want to go somewhere like the Department of Homeland Security. They define human trafficking as the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain labor or commercial sex acts from another person. So if you notice, there's no mention of transportation, even though we think of trafficking as being in traffic. There's no mention of age, so you don't have to be under the age of 18 to be a victim of trafficking. There's no mention of money, even though it says commercial sex acts, that does not always correlate into money. So prostitution is not the same thing as human trafficking and vice versa, even though there's a massive overlapping of these areas. It's the same thing with human smuggling. Human smuggling is the transportation of a person from one place to another. Human trafficking and human smuggling often overlap again in huge ways.
Yeah.
All issues that all all need to be addressed. One does not automatically equal the other.
All right. That's going to change my whole game plan. I just want you to know. All right, throw that out. All right. Well, I think I want you then, before we go into what your big idea is, which is normally what I start off with, I think I want to start off with a little bit about your story. I mean, I know it's got to be short and sweet, but I think we want to do an overview first and then dive into some of your points. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm good with doing the cliff notes. And if anybody wants to, I got the whole book talking about the whole story.
Which I love the cover. By the way, I love the cover.
So the dress that I'm wearing in the cover here, it's actually the dress that's on the mannequin right back here behind me right now. This is actually a 1940s antique. I have a huge collection of 1940s antiques, including jewelry, handbags, shoes, hats, the whole works.
Wow.
A lot of fun.
Wow.
It's one of my greatest passions, and I love this dress. So my story. Most survivors of human trafficking are no stranger to early childhood abuse and trauma. That's definitely prevalent in my own life. I was molested, I can remember when I was 4. I was molested and raped repeatedly throughout my teen and preteen years. I was 18. I had grown up in this environment where I believed that, number one, I was a sex object. And number two, the people who love you are the people who say that they love you, they also hurt you. And if they don't hurt you, it means that they don't love you, because one cannot exist without the other. As humans, we seek out patterns. And these patterns are things that we constantly are trying to make connections with in our brain. So we seek out people who remind us of things that we are familiar with. And this was familiar territory for me. Being exploited, being abused. My mother was mentally and emotionally abusive. My father was physically abusive. My brother was the one who molested me when I was 4. I had an uncle. I had total strangers at a swimming pool. I had a stranger in a parking lot. This was the kind of abuse that was surrounding me. This was perfectly normal for me. So when I was 18, I found myself dating a man who was more than twice my age. And basically he traded me, I believe, for drugs. He sent me off with his best friend for a birthday weekend in Las Vegas, where I was molested and raped over a period of 52 hours before I was finally able to go back to where I had been living at the time, which was Arizona. Out of there as quickly as I could, of course. And again, this is the Cliff Notes version. This is a very short version.
I know. We're going to have to get the book for sure, but go ahead.
So I left there, eventually made my way out to Florida. I was going to stay with my grandmother. When I got all of the way there, after having already made this arrangement and agreement, I was told that they were not coming to get me. I was on my own and good luck, and I was stranded at the Daytona Beach bus station at 10:30 at night with $5 to my name. My family had contacted her and told her that if she took me in, they'd never speak to her again, because all I was doing was running from my problems, which, yeah, that was a pattern. Absolutely. Yeah. And we're seeking out patterns, and I was a teenage runaway. So I was in by a young couple who found me there at the bus station. He was 22. She looked 18. She was 15. And they told me they had a place for me to stay until I could get on my feet. But what they really meant was they had a place that I could stay until they found the highest bidder, because they sold me as a commodity. Physically, my entire body, my entire life was worth, I believe, around $90.
Oh, God.
This young man kept me locked up for 23 and a half hours in a small room with no food, no water, and no bathroom facilities. When I did get out, it was because I was a child of the 80s and grew up watching MacGyver, and Richard Dean Anderson saved my life.
No. I love MacGyver.
Yeah, he was amazing. So I left there, eventually found my way out to California, tried to establish myself and build a life for myself. I was on Alias and Will and Grace, and I modeled for Harley Davidson. I did a bunch of really cool stuff out there.
Yeah.
But that was during the time that internet dating was really becoming a thing. So I met a man, and over a period of 7 years of us getting to know each other online, we would have video conversations and stuff through Skype. He would be eating breakfast when I was eating dinner, because he lived in Scotland, or the other way around. I don't remember anymore what the time difference was. But yeah, we got to know each other over this long period of time. At the end of the 7 years, he had watched me really grow. I had developed a career. I was doing really well. I had just gotten a really substantial raise. And he asked me to get a fiance visa and move to Scotland to be with him. And it took him 7 years to get me there. It took him 7 days to start trafficking me. And I couldn't go to the authorities because he was the authorities. He was a police officer.
Oh,
Yeah. I eventually got away from him too. So I was there for 152 days, so for 5 months in Scotland, being consistently abused throughout the entire time. I nearly took my life during that time, and it was nothing more than a approximately 4-year-old child that walked out onto the train platform that stopped me from doing it. I knew that if I was going to be kept alive in my darkest hour like that, there had to be more to my life. And when I did finally get away from him and I made it back to the States, I thought that everything was going to be better. You know, I'm out of there. I got an abuser. That's not what happens. That's pretty much never what happens. These people think that they have ownership over you. They're going to claim you. And he came after me and he attacked me repeatedly. He came to the U.S. looking for me. He was banging on the neighbor's door. He had my address off by a single number. He threatened my life multiple times. He had taken a bunch of photos and videos of me being raped while I was there being trafficked. And every time he found out when I would get a new job, he would send these to the boss. I would lose the job. When he found out I made a new friendship, he would send a friend. Eventually, I had nothing left keeping me in California. So in 2016, I moved out to Colorado. In 2019, I found out that he'd made me famous on a pornography website by putting all of this stuff up and putting my social media and personal information up there for people to be able to follow me and find me. And it was recognized and asked for my autograph in a grocery store. Not for being on TV, not for the modeling that I had once done, but for being on a pornography website because this guy had seen me being raped. It was humiliating.
Oh my gosh.
So I reached out to a couple of anti-trafficking organizations out here. I got into therapy and counseling. I got pro bono legal services to take all this stuff down off these pornography websites. And I finally got the help that I really needed. And it was the first time I had really been able to ask for help in my adult life.
Mm.
Since then, what I've realized is that the reason it's so difficult to ask for help is because we have this, again, preconceived idea that asking for help means that we're weak. When asking for help is actually a strength, not a weakness.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness, Amanda, I had no idea. Why are you in Denver that I can't hug you right now?
I would totally hug you.
And I love dinner, but you'll never know. Like, wait a minute, Sandy West is at my door.
Yeah, people don't show up at my door anymore without, having some kind of an invitation.
I'm sure they don't. All right. And I know that's just a short summary of what you've gone through. And I'm so glad that I'm looking at what you're doing now. I mean, man, oh man, I feel in a short period of time, you've come far. Like, I'm sure it's still a journey, but you've come far, man. I mean, really far. So I was taking notes, but they're all scribble scrabble because it was just like, holy shit, holy shit. What happened to the dude?
Absolutely.
Nothing.
So
Please don't say nothing.
Absolutely nothing. When he started really attacking me when I first got back, somehow I really was able to dig deep and try to fight back. But my attempts to fight back were all focused on following the legal system because that was all I knew to do. So I reached out to his superior officers there at the police station where he worked, and I reported this happened to me. And we had a lot of back and forth conversations. They claimed they opened up a full investigation, and about 2 months later, I received an actual physical letter from them in the mail that said they did a full investigation and saw no illegal acts had occurred, no evidence of abuse. In spite of all of the photos and videos that he had been sharing around, I sent them this stuff, and he was very clearly identifiable by his tattoos.
Okay, well, we'll just move forward from that. I have no words. When did you meet your husband?
I met my husband almost exactly 1 month to the day after my book was published.
No!
Yeah.
And what year was that?
2021. It was my 10-year anniversary of freedom from trafficking. So last time I was trafficked, I was actually 31 years old. So that the whole idea that it only happens to underage kids is absolute garbage. I was 31 when that happened. I was 41 when my book was released and when I met my husband.
Which answers the question I was getting over and over again from my peeps, because I reached out to them before you came live, and they're like, all different types of trauma. So it wasn't just about human trafficking. It was about being abused over and over and over again in family situations. And some of them just don't know how they'll ever have a normal relationship, and wanted to know, because they knew you were married, and they knew your husband and your cat saved your life, or weren't sure which one was more important. I was going with the cats, but I'm kidding, husband. I'm kidding. But they just didn't, some of them just can't see like how it'd be possible. I mean, they have good lives, some of them. I was reading through, but to have a relationship, they want to know how.
Right.
Like, how was that possible for you? And I understand that question.
Yeah, I mean, I lived that question for 41 years. It wasn't until I met my husband that I really started to understand that this was something that was possible. So you have to be willing to do the hard work. This is hard work. This is not something you can't just go into a therapist and expect them to wave a magic wand and all your problems disappear. That's not how therapy works. They're there to give you the stepping stones for you to do the work yourself to get from one side to the other. You have to do the work. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom before you're ready to do that work. And in 2019, when all of that stuff blew up and I was being exploited yet again, that was my rock bottom. It wasn't that day on the train to take my life. It was when I didn't know how to survive from one day to the next because of what was continually happening. You can be away from the dangerous people for years and not have hit rock bottom yet. But when you hit that rock bottom, when you are ready to get the help, when you understand that getting the help is going to be that thing that saves your life, then you're ready to go through with it. Going through therapy, I was in therapy for 1.5 years. Towards the end of that is when my therapist said, I don't think there's much more that I can do to help you, but I know you well now to know that your journey of healing and your journey of self-discovery doesn't end here. So what are you going to do next? And I said, I think I'm finally ready to write my book. And I wrote that book in 30 days, in the month of December of 2020. And
30 days.
30 days. It is a 350-page book, and it's not like it's large print or anything. I mean, it's kind of substantial. And she was kind of shocked by that. And she said, well, now I have a question of, now what are you going to do? Because that's insane. And your journey's not done yet, again. And I told her, I said, I have no idea what I'm going to do next. And she said, I want you to try painting. I told her, if I've ever tried to paint, it has come out looking like a multicolored snowman laying on his side in a snowstorm. I am not a painter.
Yeah.
Now I'm painting my own book covers, and my art has gone internationally. I did not know that I had it in me to be able to paint. And I have now, I've painted artwork that's hanging in homes for human trafficking survivors in other states. And doing all of these things, as trauma survivors, we're constantly looking for some kind of a sense of control over our environment. We seek this. It is a trauma reaction. We have maybe 10% of control over anything that happens in our lives. Being able to write, being able to paint, and being able to cook were all three things that really helped me to be able to cope and to move beyond and through everything that I was going through and feeling experiencing and expressing it and getting it out. And with the book, what I noticed primarily was that when I wrote down all the bad stuff that happened, I gave it a physical body that was separate from me. I could then take this thing and set it down and walk away from it and leave it on the shelf. That was huge. So all of this kind of prepped me for being able to have some kind of a relationship. But when I met my husband, I was a man who had already done the work in himself also. He had been through a terrible, he had gone through counseling to see if the things that he was accused of being were true. Turned out they weren't. He was accused of being a terrible human being, and he wanted to know, is this true? If it's true, what can I do to change, fix this? And he did discover a few things in himself that he wasn't overly proud of. So he did the work to start changing those things within himself. But when we came together, we met, he knew already that I was a survivor of human trafficking because I had started opening up and really being a public speaker about this.
Yeah.
And he wanted to know more. So without me knowing about it, he ordered and bought a copy of my autobiography. He read the entire thing front to back.
Yeah.
He told me, if you can go through all of this and still be willing to look for a relationship and want to find that and have that in your life, I knew that I needed to have a lot more of you in my life.
Okay, I take it back. He's way more important than the cats, or at least equal. Oh my God. That is beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you guys found each other. How fun.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And it's
I
just
can tell. It's all over your face. It's all over your face.
It's just a bonus that I married a hottie. I mean.
Oh, well, that's a throwaway, right? Sure, he says the same about you. All right, so now let's back up, which now makes sense, with your powerful statement I have here, which is, it is not our past that makes us stronger. It is our willingness to keep going even when things seem impossible. That must have been your motto for a long time, young lady.
Absolutely. As well as one that I no longer subscribe to or believe in. For many years, I told myself, I've been through worse, I can get through this too. The truth was that every single instant of abuse was different from anything else I had been through. And it was getting progressively worse than anything that I had been through. Every single time we tell ourselves or we tell somebody else, oh, you've been through worse, you can get through this too. We are setting ourselves up to be more complicit to abuse and to these harmful situations, and leaving ourselves in these dangerous places where we don't do exist. We need to be able to exit these situations, not by telling ourselves, I've been through worse, I can get through this, but by telling ourselves, I've been through something like this, and I don't need to do it again.
I've never heard that before. I love that. I mean, I never even thought about that. You're right, but people say that all the time. You hear it all the time. I've been through worse. I'll be fine. I'll never be saying that again, Amanda. All right. So I could talk to you for hours. I'm going to have to bring you back for my long podcast for Let's Keep It Real, because I need to find out more. But I love this statement. I want to make sure we get this in. Talk to me about forgiveness, because when you're talking about learn to let go, your ideas of forgiveness are a little bit different than most people think.
Right. So if we were standing in an elevator and you accidentally bumped me with your bag, your first reaction would be to say, oh, I'm sorry. My first reaction would be to say, that's okay. That's not forgiveness, that's pardon. We have been made to believe that that is forgiveness, telling somebody it's okay. When you survive abuse, it is not okay. It is not ever going to be okay. That's not what forgiveness means. Forgiveness means that you've got all of this bottled up anger and hatred and visceral rage towards somebody for what they've done to you. You are hurt. You are justified in your anger. There's no such thing as justified anger. The more we hang on to anger, the more we poison ourselves, not just toward the people who hurt us, but toward the people who love us. You're living this absolute cauldron of anger and of hatred, and we're taking it out on the people around us who love us. And the only way to be able to move beyond that is to say, it doesn't control me anymore. And that is the true meaning of forgiveness. Not telling them that it's okay. Go with that anger and moving on with your life.
It's a totally different way of thinking of it. A healthier way of thinking of it. And I can see how having that feeling will move you forward versus staying stuck. It will move you forward. All right. Amanda, I got so many questions coming in here. We're not going to get them all. You can reach out to Amanda separately. You can buy her book. If she's willing, I will put you on the longer recorded podcast so we can talk more to you. But I also want to get this one in because I was reading over your information, and one thing that I know you do is you celebrate your wins. And you talk about celebrating your wins. So are they little wins every day, or is like one a week, or you just all throughout, whatever comes up, you celebrate your wins?
Every time something good happens that I know deep down in my stomach and my gut is good. If somebody reaches out to me and said, hey, you had an impact on me, that's a win. That is somebody who now has a better understanding of either human trafficking or that they don't need to stay in this situation just because they've been through something like this before. Also, a big win for me is writing a new book. It can also be discovering a new recipe and cooking a new meal that we've never had before. It can be something as small as I trained my cat how to play fetch. That can also be, oh yeah. We have a Bengal cat who plays fetch with spring toys. He brings them and drops them into our hands and then barks at us until we throw them. And by bark, I mean he goes, it's very funny. He's a little weirdo.
I love that.
All of these things are such moments that need to be celebrated, and the degree of celebration can change depending on the degree of the win. You know, something like treating yourself to maybe a little scoop of ice cream after dinner.
Yeah.
Or having a little extra TV time, maybe watching a comedy with somebody you love.
I agree. All right. Are you a good cook? You said you like to cook. Are you good?
My most recent book that I just published in June was my first ever cookbook.
No way.
Yep, it's called Surviving in the Kitchen, Recipes for Life, Love, and a Full Stomach.
All right, so I don't just want to come to Colorado because I love Colorado to give you a hug. I want to come for a meal. I love eating. I'm a foodie, but I'm not a great cook. So.
Oh, I'm both. And I learned how to cook out of self-defense. My mother hated cooking and she wasn't great at it.
Gotcha. So you have a lot of things here that you do. One of the questions they asked was your artwork. Was that healing to you? And it sounds like it was, as well as the cooking.
Right. I started out by painting some of the stuff that I was feeling. Now, I would give it a physical form in the painting. It would be a person or something walking away or walking down a hill or falling off of a cliff. Mm-hmm. And eventually my paintings completely transformed. Now I have a solo art exhibit. This is the last day of it, but I have a solo art exhibit going on right here in Denver for the entire month. Oh. And one of my favorite pieces, is the largest piece in the gallery, is this massive mist-covered cliff with sun kind of peeking through in the background, a couple of birds flying here and there. But standing on top of the cliff, nowhere near the edge, is a red-haired girl with her arms thrown back, enjoying the breeze. Oh. It's called There's No Longer People Falling Off of Cliffs. Now they are standing on top of them and mastering them.
Mm. All right, Amanda. Well, we got to wrap up. I can't believe it. But before we go, you mentioned your books. I know you speak. You coach. Is your artwork for sale?
Yes. Yep. All the stuff in that current exhibit, when it's taken down off the walls, I'm going to be listing it probably on my website and on Etsy. And people can actually purchase my artwork from, I've got prints available already on Etsy, but they can purchase it from pretty much anywhere in the world.
All right. So tell them where they can find you then. We'll put it in the show notes, but let them know.
So the easiest is the Growth from Darkness website. It's growthfromdarkness.com, or my other website, detailedpieces.com, which is my same name here on Instagram as Detailed Pieces. They can also find me on Facebook. I am far more active on Facebook than any other social media platform, probably to my own detriment. I would probably publish more than 2 or 3 books a year if I didn't spend as much time on Facebook. On Facebook.com/Amanda Blackwood Survivor.
I'm sorry, it's Amanda Blackwood .survivor.
Amanda Blackwood Survivor, all one word.
Okay.
Oh, and I have my own podcast too. So.
Uh-oh. Wait, let me see. No, wait.
That's probably the easier way.
And where can they find that, Amanda?
Basically, where the podcasts are played, except for YouTube. I'm not on YouTube yet, but it's just The Survivors. If they go into YouTube, or if they go into any podcast platform and put in my name, Amanda Blackwood, they'll come up with that, but they'll also come up with all the other podcasts where I have been on interviews. So if they want like a slightly more expanded interview where I talk more about the story, they can do that too.
Amanda Blackwood, it has been a pleasure having you on this show. I'm so happy we connected.
Thank you.
And I am so thrilled that you are out there touching so many people with your story. It just makes my heart sing. And I'm going to send you so much peace, love, joy, and fun. I can't wait to just be in contact with you more and see what else you're doing. And I'm sitting here and you're going, yeah, I wrote my book in 30 days. It took me 2 years to write a journal. It's all right. Okay, it's all good.
One of me 12 years to write, so you're in good company.
It's okay. All right, I got something to say, people. You know what I'm going to say. Until next time, toodles. Bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Thank you so much.